Geraldo.
Hi.
Live and in the flesh.
Go Cavs.
Geraldo, here's the big question. Will the Attorney General of the United States...
Bridge story.
It's a terrible story.
Imagine if you were
hope
the
they can figure it
architect
out.
or the engineer who designed that system.
Something
Or
went...
imagine
So
if-
modern.
Or if
Something
your
went
loved
wrong.
one were underneath
Oh,
all
my
of that
God.
rubble.
Can you
I know.
imagine that?
Well, to our first story here, I mean, someone needs to be held accountable for that, right? Someone made a big mistake, and lives are going to change, and lives have been lost as a result.
Just awful.
Perhaps. Good point. But, you know, we've got former Deputy Director of the FBI, Andy McCabe, who resigned, hoping to keep his pension. His name has been all over the news. And now our Attorney General has an opportunity, if it's determined, and the White House has said he's a bad actor. We know he's done some things wrong. And they have until the end of today to decide whether to fire him, effectively hold him accountable. He would not receive his pension. As a result, what do you make of what should be done here? Do you let him retire, or do you hold him accountable and say, hey, you just don't get away with this?
You know, that's an interesting question. But to me, you know, I think it's so weird, the coverage of McCabe, the way it's coming down. Because if I were him, or if I were he, I don't know which is the correct English there, I'd be a lot more worried about getting a criminal defense attorney than I would about getting a pension, ruling from my civil service union. I mean, this is a person, apparently, who lied to the FBI about the Hillary Clinton email probe, about, the Clinton Foundation. You can do a lot of things. But the one thing you can't do is sit with a federal investigator and not tell the truth.
Tell Michael Flynn. Tell Martha Stewart.
Exactly.
Tell George Papadopoulos.
Exactly. I mean, yes, you know, he worked 22 years. He wants his pension. Everybody needs, to have security in their old age or whatever it is. But in this case, it really does seem to me that his prime concern should be whether or not he's going to go to jail.
But Geraldo, if I did 21 years in the military, and then in my 21st year, I did something deserving of a dishonorable discharge, I would not get my pension. So why should he be treated differently?
Well, it is extremely difficult to deny a pension to a person who's worked in the federal civil service
100%.
once the pension vests.
What if you've broken the law, though? What if you broke the law?
It is possible. But it is a lot more likely that he can be indicted than he can be denied his pension.
What does this message tell the American people, though, that are out there working really hard to pay his pension? Because it looks like he's getting rewarded for doing something wrong. You know what? Go home. Retire early. Retire in March. We're going to give you 2 months off before that. Go enjoy your vacations and sit at home.
I would bet, Ainsley, that he would gladly sacrifice his pension if he were given a green light, no criminal charges. You get out. You go live your life. Do whatever you're going to do. We'll never charge you. We'll give you a pass. I bet he would take that deal because he can get the pension and then be charged. And they seem to have him really by the short
They got
hairs.
him. Yeah. So stay tuned. We'll find out if that happens by the close of business today. Meanwhile, Geraldo, you know Jamil Shaw Sr. His son was murdered by somebody who was in this country illegally. So we had him on as a guest about 90 minutes ago. And he was talking about the mayor of Oakland, California, Libby Schaaf, who a couple of weeks ago had heard that ICE might have some raids and said, hey, illegals, there she is right there, run. We had him on because he is one of the angel parents, and they would like to see her prosecuted. Listen to this.
Her job is to protect the citizens, the American citizens, and for her to take a stand like that, she's allowing Americans to be murdered. I mean, she has blood on her hands because she could have easily just let them go into the jail system and capture those criminals, but she allowed them to come out and then for people to be murdered. That's all on her and people like her.
And we have also heard that apparently it's not just the Angel families against the Oakland mayor, but perhaps the Department of Justice is looking into did she obstruct justice?
Well, whether or not she obstructed justice is a finding of fact. Did she get the information that ICE was coming down through official sources and betray her official job, or did she get it informally, scuttlebutt off the street? You know, the Texas appeals court ruling has just come down that said the federal government is in charge of immigration. You have to do what the federal government says. that case will surely go to the Supreme Court of the United States because there are different rulings in different federal districts. So the ultimate question, remember there was that big Arizona case where the Obama administration went after Arizona because Arizona was too tough on undocumented immigration, and the federal government said ease off, and the federal government was ruled by the Supreme Court to be the primary, supreme. To be paramount, to be supreme, right. If that logic holds, then I think they will find that California is not fulfilling its constitutional responsibility to the federal government. But that is still in the mix. What I really want people to know, and I totally get it, every time I come out I have to say it, I get that I'm in the minority. But there are definitely, particularly in these blue states that are very heavily populated by documented and undocumented but related people, there is a real sentiment of compassion, inclusion. They're here so long, they have law-abiding lives otherwise, other than their presence here. They have citizen children. The mom is...
Totally get that, but we're not talking about law-abiding people in Oakland. These people were criminals. So she's alerting criminals.
One of the things Jamil Shaw said was, I asked him, how many people in California support being a sanctuary state? He said, I don't know anybody. He said, if they really wanted to know, they would take a poll, but they're afraid to take a poll.
Well, I think that we should take the poll, perhaps, but the biggest poll is the fact that the Democrats are winning everything everywhere, and generally speaking, because in California it's the two top vote getters in the primary session who run against each other in the finals. We're running two Democrats against two Democrats in California very often.
Well, Pennsylvania just ran two Republicans against each other.
And this could be the wave of the future. I just want people to know that there is a real divide in this country about how to approach this problem.
100%.
And I think, and I advised the president when I saw him a few weeks ago, I love the idea that this whole thing with the dreamers, the 1.8 million dreamers, and let the president get the wall, get the $25 billion to fund the wall. Let's build the wall. I think that will satisfy, to a certain extent, many Trump supporters. The dreamers getting a pass and a road, however arduous, to citizenship, I think that would placate the left, and maybe we can then start with something comprehensive to figure this out.
Is the wall too tall for you, though, Geraldo?
The thing about the wall, and I tell the president, I joke, but the wall is 30 feet, 35 feet high. You know, it's a $25 billion wall, and you get a 32-foot ladder that you get for $25 at Walmart, and you beat the wall. Yeah. But if you want the wall, we'll build the wall. I think that elections have consequences, and you know, the majority of people in the states with the electoral votes voted for Trump and the wall. They should get the damn wall.
The damn wall. All right, Geraldo, thank you very much.
Okay, good.